Hi everybody, okay, so today we're going to be going over 10 advanced English words to improve your vocabulary. We're going to base it off of Merriam-Webster's definitions. However, we can adjust the definitions to make them a little bit simpler or easier to grasp, as well as the examples. All right, so let's get started. Okay, definition number one is bewilder, bewilder, bewilder. Okay, so this means to cause confusion, right? They put to lose one's bearings. This is another way to say cause confusion, to perplex, or to cause a variety or multitude of objects or consideration. Okay, this is like to mix up. His decision bewildered her, utterly bewildered by the instructions. We can also say something as simple as I am bewildered. Okay, this is simply just I am confused. I am confused. It's a more advanced word for confused, but yes, to create some sort of confusion. Bewilder. Bewilder. Okay. The next one is prolific. Prolific. Okay, so this is something that produces a lot. This is used a lot when talking about some kind of artistic production. They're a prolific writer. It's something you might hear, or here they give an example, of prolific composer, but really just any kind of large amount of production. Okay, or producing a lot of fruit. Okay, so creating a lot. So let's give another example. A prolific composer. We can also say something to the extent of um, he was a prolific writer during the 17th century. Okay, so producing a lot, creating a lot of production. Prolific. Prolific. Okay, next word is frugal. Frugal. Okay, so this is something that means somebody is careful about spending money, or some people might say cheap. But it doesn't necessarily mean cheap. It just means that they're careful. Cheap has a connotation of if they have the money, they still won't spend it because they want to save, or they'll buy bad quality things. Frugal, on the other hand, has a connotation where they will buy good quality things, but they will make absolutely sure that they need it. So somebody can be frugal and not necessarily cheap. Frugal has a little bit more of a positive connotation than cheap. Okay, so Webster's defines it as careful about spending money or using things you do not need to, right? So here, this is the critical part, needing to. Okay, so if somebody absolutely has to spend money, then they might be more inclined, right? So let's use another example. Through frugality, this is the noun version of frugal, okay, because frugal is actually an adjective. So through frugality, okay, they were able to save up money for their retirement. Okay, through frugality, they were able to save their money for retirement. And here we see they also define it as simple and plain. So somebody that doesn't have a lot of, showy things. They don't buy things to show off a lot of fancy cars or clothes. They just buy things for a practical reason. Okay, frugal, frugal. The next word is compel. Compel. This means like to force somebody to do something, but this force is coming from almost within. It's like an emotional force. It's not an external force, right? To compel, to drive or urge forcefully or irresistibly. So here the examples they give is hunger compelled him to eat. Hunger moved him in the direction of eating. The general was compelled to surrender, right? He had no other choice, but it's something that might be from within, right? Because if, let's say in this example, the general really wanted to keep fighting, he could, but it was something from inside that compelled him, something from inside that forced him, right? So we can give one other example. We could say, after much consideration, I am compelled to um, allow you, and then we could have something else to do X, Y, Z, or whatever. Okay, so compel, to forcefully urge, right? But some kind of internal pressure. Okay. Next word is concise. Concise. This is something that is short and simple. So this is a very good definition using few words. No extra or unnecessary information. Concise. Okay, something clear and brief that has all of the main important points. That is concise. So brief and has every important point, or at least the big important points that you need. Concise. Condone. This is to approve of something, whether it be an explicit approval or something that is kind of implied. It's simply to approve of something. So you'll hear this a lot when speaking about politics or government, right? Here's the example: a government that has been accused of condoning racism, basically approving of it, maybe not in the open, but through their actions or through not administering laws, they're actually somewhat kind of approving of it. So condone is to kind of approve of something, whether it be explicit or simply through a lack of actions. Okay, condone, condone. Next one is juxtapose and juxtaposition. Juxtapose is an adjective, and juxtaposition is a noun. Okay, so we can go ahead and make these a little bit smaller. All right, there we go. Juxtapose is an adjective, juxtaposition is a noun. So this is basically, this is a synonym for to place beside. Okay, to place beside. So something like to compare two things, we could say you are juxtaposing apples with oranges. You're comparing them, or you're placing them beside one another. So it's to place side by side, and normally in a situation where you are going to compare them. That is juxtapose, or juxtaposition would be the noun version. Okay, next is blatant. Blatant. Okay, so this is something that is completely out in the open. You're not even trying to hide it. So this might be used for something that you would normally try to hide, something that might normally be embarrassing, but in this case you don't even care. So they would say just blatantly. So here, blatant disregard for the rules. So if somebody's going to disregard the rules, if they're going to ignore the rules, they might at least try to hide it. They might try to be sneaky, but blatant means that they don't even care to hide it. It's just out in the open without even trying to hide it. Blatant. Imply. This is to express indirectly. So it's when you want to express something, but it's not necessarily stated. So this is something that's done maybe through subtext, or through intonation, or through a reference to something else. It's something that's not stated directly. Okay, so this is something that people have to understand from the context because it's not in the actual words. Imply. And then the last one we have is confined. Confined. So this is something kept within a small space or within a limited space. Now this could be a mental space, or it could be a physical space, or it could even be through time. This is just something kept within certain limits, right? So in the example they give here, confined to bed, this means that that person is not allowed to leave the bed. They're kept within the limits of bed. Okay, or we could also say you're confined to your old ways of thinking. So we could also give that example. Let's say confined to your old ways of thinking. That means that you're limited to your old mindset, to your old ways of thinking. Okay, so it's that's a mental confinement, or we could even do it through time. We could say confined to 2 minutes. Maybe somebody has to give a speech or something, and they only have 2 minutes to give it. So let's keep it confined to 2 minutes. Okay, so keep it within those limits. All right, so those are 10 new words to increase your vocabulary. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And feel free to let me know any other words that you might want to know. All right.